Welcome to Knock 'em Dead, a comedy podcast that deals with the one thing we all experience, yet never talk about: death. Episode
7.
First Responders. First responders, the early bird ticket holders to all things macabre, the front row VIPs for the worst of humanity's nightmare, the first people called to a crime scene, the brave men and women whose lives are a constant parade of drinking 3 a.m. coffees while pulling crime scene tape over a lost soul and trying to get through it by telling wonderfully inappropriate dead people jokes. Because the only way to survive what they see is to have a sense of humor that Hitler would find insensitive.
This is not funny to me.
Imagine death is your job, and not that fun part, where you get to use your TikTok tutorial makeup skills to play cadaver dress up, paint their faces, and display them in a satin box. No, you have to handle the part where they're disassembled, legs and arms akimbo, if you can find them. Your office is a scene from a Stephen King book. Hey, but if you match all the body parts to the right corpse, you get to be Employee of the Month. Everyone else has to deal with fill and accounting. You have to account for all pieces of fill. Your job is like playing a game of crime scene operation, putting all the organs back in the body. Okay, too far. And yet, these public servants keep getting up and doing their jobs. And knowing death would be a regular part of your job. Could you do it? I'm Rachel Bradley, with my co-host, Christopher Titus. This is Knock 'em Dead. It's unlike anything.
At every drug house you go into, it has a 2,000-pound mattress laying in the living room because they go in there and people come and sleep and
do the drugs
and crap and pee and fluids, and so the mattress starts to get heavier. And so when you walk in, you can tell. You'll bump it to look under it for dope or something, and it doesn't move. Yeah, I've seen some nasty.
It sounds like the movie 7. It sounds like he works in the movie 7. He just always showing up. All right, go ahead, Ray.
Ken, were we rolling? Oh, I kind of like that as an intro. Yeah. Hi, guys. Welcome to Knock 'em Dead, this episode
7.
I feel like we should just leave that conversation in. So
I hope we did, because
people get an idea of where we're going today. Co-host Christopher Titus.
Hello, everyone. Good to see you. Today we're kind of dealing with what these people, with death, like you said in your very well written opening. Death is their job, and not the fun part where they're already dead and you get to fill them with some fluids and put them in a box. This is like, oh no, we're pre-fluids.
Or during.
They're still leaking. Yeah, they're still leaking. Actually,
very excited to have this guest here today. He happens to be related to me. He is the less good-looking sibling. And
yeah, that's valid. We all agree.
I was gonna say less intelligent. The whole list that we always go through. My brother, and I think I'm just gonna say
sandwich.
That'll work.
Yeah, Josh.
Okay, make sure you use the microphone.
Yeah.
There you go.
Put a little closer to you, speak into the microphone. You know how, like, when you're interrogating something in whatever job you do, and the guy won't talk into the mic, you're like, "Can you lean forward, please?"
I usually just slide the recorder closer, but that's just me.
Well, here, let's try that. All right. So my brother has been in law enforcement for many years.
Yeah, I mean, directly for 17, but like externally for like 20, maybe 25, 22.
So we're not going to say where or with whom, but
because we can't.
Because he'd have to kill you. But it was.
Or they'd send in a bunch of guys.
It was something that I was thinking about. So he didn't sign on specifically. He didn't sign on with the coroner's office or with CSI or things like that. But it is an incidental part of, I think, just about everyone in law enforcement's job, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I kind of did initially because I started that internship with the crime scene unit.
Yeah, that was when he did sign on for dead people.
Yeah, I literally wanted to see if I could handle it. That was my plan. That was my whole thought. Was like,
I guess you do have to kind of go, huh? Can I deal with this?
I mean, I had seen bodies before in circumstances, but never in those situations.
Sounded very vague.
So what was...
in circumstance... I've seen bodies before. In circumstances.
There may or may not be a statute of limitations involved. No, but going into some of those houses and seeing the bodies with the crime scene unit was something I had never experienced. And the guys were awesome. They didn't know what to do with me because I was the first one they'd ever had. So
it's a weird death ride along is a weird
so they
one.
took me everywhere. I mean, literally, like they're like, oh,
because there were no rules yet.
Right, exactly.
They were like, we've never had anybody ask to do this before.
We have no trauma research. Let's just take the kid.
Apparently,
was like
hold
at
this
their
bag
door.
is not something that they do anymore. But I was like, what's in this? Oh, you don't want to know. You know,
how old were you then?
Oh gosh, how old?
20?
That would have been
21?
02?
02.
22, 23, something like that.
Okay. So what's your first experience? Do you remember and how you felt about it?
Vividly remember the first body. It was the guy, a very strange situation. The guy was do we use the word transvestite anymore? I don't think so. He was a guy that dressed like a woman.
Crossdresser, yeah.
So he was a crossdresser,
sure.
whatever the right term is. I don't want
Eddie is hard, offend, except
but not good at it. And had been writing people's prescriptions, like stealing prescriptions and writing prescriptions, and would drink and take like Oxy and stuff like that. So the first body I ever worked was this dude was in a bed covered up, and he just had the white foam all over his face where he had a synergistic reaction between the drugs and the alcohol. So I want to say he was in rigor at the time. So my first, I was young, I was new. I'm like, okay, what do I do? We get to the door and they're like, well, grab a bag, bro. And I grab a bag. He's like, yeah, we're going to bag him when we're done, but coroner's coming. So, get a sketch pad, they had me working. So we went in and I see the guy. And at first you kind of try not to look but it's kind of fascinating. But it's not a person anymore. And I think you and I had discussed that before. Like as soon as you walk in there, and I know some people get offended by me saying that I'm a Christian, but I'm a Christian. And so
you're free to say that as much as you'd like.
But I have this sense of being here and a soul being present, and then not being here and the soul being gone.
Skin bag, right? When you walk in,
you're a piece of furniture now. You're just there.
I have this weird vision of you walking with a paper trainee hat. I have this weird vision.
You're not far off.
It just says deathcore
with a little plastic badge.
Hello, my name is Josh.
And we were in a fairly small town, and they were Bubba's, and so that you're not far off, because they were very much like, hey, where's your gun? I'm like, bro, I'm in college. And he's like, yeah. He's like, they'll shoot you too. You need to bring a gun. And so they wanted me to carry a pistol the whole time I was there. And I'm like, well, am I covered by the department? Like, shit, no, but you better be covered by that 45.
I love these guys. To be fair, you could conceal carry where we lived. And we both did have concealed carry permits at one point. Yeah. Because there were some dangerous areas, and I would be leaving the club late at night.
Same.
And we both worked very close to each other downtown at different nightclub situations, and would leave with money or whatever late at night. And so we both concealed carry.
We'll call it the pragmatic South, where you guys.
Oh yeah, I had to pull it several times. I luckily never had to shoot anybody. But coming out of the club, because in the one that I worked in, you walked into a dark alley.
Yeah,
that was how you exited. And I had my vehicle broken into and stuff, but we were always carrying a money bag. Yeah. And I'd had people coming down the alley, and you can tell. Yeah. Your spidey senses go off. Yeah. Your lizard brain starts working. And so I've had to pull it and sit it next to me and not show it to anybody. And there have been times where the guy starts, you tell him, hey, go away, leave me alone. And they keep coming. And the third time I tell them, I draw it up, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to kill this guy. So
let's finish the story about the walking into the house.
I do just want to qualify though. You whenever you shoot, you have to requalify, and you are what's called sharpshooter.
I shoot expert.
Expert.
Sharpshooter. Well, sharpshooter is
I'm just wondering, do you think running around the house in your Superman underpants and holding fake guns and going pew pew pew, do you think that qualified you
100%.
To be
absolutely?
Okay. This weird brother sister shit that we're going to get into right now really not. It really doesn't help. Pew, pew. Because he's literally a badass, and you're like, remember when you were in your Superman underpants? Okay.
No, I had Wonder Woman. You had a cape though. I had the boots, and we would fly off of furniture.
You still have the boots.
Yeah. Is that a problem?
Forgive me. I'm dealing with allergies. So yeah.
I am too.
So
you walked into the house.
Yes. So we go in the house. And I was pretty stunned, but after a while, the guys are so matter of fact, 'cause they've been doing it. In the area that we were in a very high, I want to say top 10 murder rates in the US at the time.
Yeah.
And so these guys dead bodies are a thing, like whatever.
Yeah.
So they go in, they start drawing the scene. You're kind of looking around to see what caused it. So after a couple of minutes of that first stunned, like where where your body kind of vibrates and you're a little overly warm for a second, I was like, oh, this is just a job. And so we were walking around.
What about the smell?
So there wasn't a smell yet. When you get close to him, the saliva smells kind of gross, but like I wasn't like licking his face or anything. So, I mean, who would? So
he's a trainee. You don't. I think that's level 3 or 4.
The things that we did to people in the nightclubs we worked in, though, that would have been the thing. Yeah, you got to lick his face, bro. No, it's your first. You got to lick it. So we go in and we're looking at the pills. We're finding stuff. Like, I think we're investigating. And these guys are like, no. We're going to determine cause of death, and then we're leaving. So these guys are not detectives, right? They're crime scene guys. So they find the stuff, and they find, there wasn't any question about what killed him. The pills were there. The names are all over.
Like half a bottle of Jack.
I mean, literally.
A neon arrow pointing down.
Exactly. So the part where it starts to get weird is the coroner shows up. And she's a very large, and I don't mean just large. I mean, she's also like 6'2".
Could have a reality show large.
She was huge.
Right.
And very funny, and just didn't care. And so let's flash back to where I said that this man liked to dress like a woman and go dance and do things in clubs. There is stuff all over this trailer for multiple different types of sex acts. And she finds it very amusing. And so every 2 or 3 seconds, she picks up another rubber something and wiggles it in the face of the nearest cop and laughs uproariously. All the while, she's like, now lift him. And so he's got, what is it called when the blood pools? I forget. Yes. Anyway, it's stuck in my head.
Yep. Go ahead.
Anyway, so she's like doing her exam, like putting thermometers places that you would not put things.
And also doing basically dildo flea market
she
at
is
one point.
Flapping these 12-inch wieners in these, and the cops are used to her. And so they're laughing.
Hypostasis, livor mortis.
Yes. So I had never seen this before. And so I was kind of stunned because, you're like, oh, they're very professional. It's like TV. No, they're not. They're not professional at all.
That's something, by the way, we haven't talked about yet, though. Livor mortis is the pooling of blood in the body due to gravity and the lack of blood circulation as a result of the cessation of cardiac activity.
Yeah, the electrical energy in your body's done. The pumps aren't working anymore. When you turn a car off, all the oil goes to the oil pan. That's just how it works.
And once it sets,
right?
It's set.
It's set.
100%. You can see anywhere that it's in contact with something, it pulls at the lowest point and it gets kind of a dark red color, dark purple color. So it was really kind of interesting. It was my first time ever seeing that.
So it's interesting. So in our lives, we're taught to be so reverent about death. And so, oh my gosh, horrible. And then you walk in and the corner, the person who deals with what?
You are. You're
taught.
Normal people taught. Yes, they are.
And we're taught. And then this coroner comes in who deals with it on a daily basis, multiple times a day, comes in and is doing dildo jokes like a hack middle act.
Yes.
And you're like, what's going on? I'm like,
from across the room.
Are we singing? Supposed to gather and sing a hymn right now? No, we can do dildo jokes. Okay.
Every time I picture her face, I hear the sound. Sorry. It's a true story. So that was,
so you were fine.
Fuzzy handcuffs.
You weren't sure, but you were once you.
Dad used to say, and this is something I talked to Dad about later, but Dad used to say in Vietnam, because I asked him questions about being a helicopter pilot in Vietnam and going into those valleys and picking guys up and bodies and
parts of guys that are still alive.
Were you scared and they're taking fire? He got blown up. I was like, Dad. I'm like, how did you deal with it? And he's like, he said, I just put my head down, say a prayer and do it. And that is kind of stuck with me like throughout my life. And I used to tell Morgan, I would tell Morgan, kind of the Bradley credo when we would get scared and we have to do something that's going to be very hard. It might be dangerous is you just put your head down, say a prayer. And we say, screw it. And we just do it. And so that's kind of how I thought about it. So I'm in that house and or that little part, trailer home, and we're looking at all this stuff. And you kind of draw outside of yourself a little bit and you look around. And then after that, it just gets easier.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like abuse.
My father,
get used to it.
A lot of my father's friends were firemen. And I'll never forget one day we were at a barbecue at the dad's house and he made his chicken and his chili. He had this amazing chili. And they were all sitting around telling stories like this. And it was the first time I was a kid. I was maybe 15 or 16. But I remember them. The fire captain, Bob Marshall, a great friend of the family, they were laughing about this story. This guy, there's 4 nodes on your heart that one of them had popped off. So they were bringing this guy back, but they kept giving him like for 4 minutes And he goes, honestly, guys, is like, is someone popping popcorn? And I remember thinking, and then I was like, oh, that's horrible. And you guys deal with this all the time. It's kind of the only way to get through it. And also
because if you're doing CPR correctly, you're cracking a rib, right?
Yeah. Oh, your sternum goes first and the ribs start to go after.
Yes. But what I really got was the only way to deal with the horror of death, because it is the other part of our brain is like, the philosophical part. This was a person, this did it, and yet it's not a person anymore. And so now you got to deal with it. The only way to get through it is to use a sense of humor. And I'm sure some of the guys you hung out with are just like, you're like, holy shit.
It gets weird. I hung out with all those cops where we lived then, and they took me on ride-alongs, which is probably completely against department policy to take me.
It's a pragmatic South. She want to go, she gonna go.
They had me in those crack houses, helping them look for stuff. I was like, they
had no permission for that.
No.
Promise.
And I often think about how they would talk about dead people or criminals or whatever it was. And if that ever got out, know who I'm talking about.
And this happens across the country all the time. But then again, all right, so you're going to complain about these first responders doing this.
Right.
You go do it.
Yeah, exactly.
No, you don't want to do it? Cool.
It's kind of like
they got to get through it somehow.
It's like the shootings and stuff. It's the exact same thing. When you see a use of force stuff, go do it. Go take a use of force training thing with the police. Go take a police academy thing, and then come back and tell me that you knew what to do in that situation and that you shot the foot or the hand or the arm successfully and you survived, or that you didn't use excessive force because you were scared. So it's the same kind of thing.
Well, especially now because specifically in this country, everybody else is armed. So and people, when you're out there and you think, oh, I got stopped by a cop, this cop's a dick, give me a ticket. You have to remember that cop maybe an hour ago was
100%.
went into a house where there was a dead kid or a dead lady, and he had to call the coroner and they had to write a report.
Like
and then so after he's doing all this work that is so needed. And yes, he's got to give you a ticket too, because you still broke the law. Right. At one point, you have to have some sympathy and some empathy for these guys.
Dude, I've been doing this 17 years, and I get pulled over, and I still turn on all the lights inside the car. I lower the windows. I put it in park. I turn the emergency lights, flashers on, and I put my freaking hands on the steering wheel.
I put my fingers out, hands on.
I'm always armed anyway, and so that's going to be the first thing. Hey, I'm carrying a service weapon. I can get you my creds, but I'm going to have to maneuver I wait.
I've had cops actually ask me, because I've done the same thing. I turn it off, turn the car off, roll all the windows down, hand on the wheel like this.
He does,
And they walk up and they're like, why are you doing that? I go, because you got a tough enough job without worrying that I might do something stupid. But it almost caused suspicion.
Yes.
Because how many times has this guy been pulled over? It does. Yeah. You're really good at getting pulled over, sir. How many times is this?
He gets pulled over a lot.
I don't.
You were with us actually one time.
You saved us one time.
I think you saved yourself.
Yeah,
he was more happy to see you than he was me.
Yeah, he was like, "You're that guy." Yeah.
Yeah. I just think I've always thought this, even if I wasn't in this job, I've always thought that complain later. There are bad cops. There are good cops. There are bad firemen. There are good firemen. There are bad comedians and good comedians.
Amen.
I mean, Lord knows. So
that's why I don't hang out with comedians.
Right? So, I have so many stories about that. But anyway, my thought too, same thing, is that you can always file a formal complaint later if you have some sort of proof or you really feel like they'd done something wrong. But in the moment, screaming and yelling and acting the fool and not showing your hands and reaching around in dark areas, that's how people get shot.
When we were in college and I was majoring, I had at that time double major was criminal justice, and I went to a career fair with Dr. Palumbo, and Illinois State Police offered to pay for me to go get my master's, but I had to give them 2 years patrol in Illinois, and it was state patrol. And I was like,
the way you look, imagine the extra hassle she would have done.
Pulling over, and you go and look. I mean, you've got Chicago, which is rough, but also a lot of barren stretches of long, Joliet, dark highway with nothing around. And I'm pulling people out, and like,
it would have been exciting work.
Either you'd have been the most raped officer or killed the most people.
She shot another one.
She shot. Bradley shot it. That's 14. It's June.
Since May.
Tell her to put her hair up in a bun.
Pull
Can we
people
get her
over,
some
like,
bulkier armor?
Can
Do
I
you
see
know
your
why I
license?
pulled you
Hello.
over?
Yeah.
That's what Josh does.
Yeah, actually. I usually do it
So
with my beard.
so that was your first one, and
they got way worse after that, but
yeah.
What?
oh, that was
Because there is a
it was
line.
a good start.
Because
It
the
was a
other
good
thing is
start.
this: is like you can see. Like I remember when my father died, and I was very clear when I saw him at the funeral that you are not there
Yeah.
anymore. You're
Yeah.
not there,
Yeah.
and I think people need to get that. They need to get that. Like you've lost that skin bag is not them. It's just not them.
I'm telling you, you can almost see it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it, like I mean, I've
It's
watched
true.
it happen.
You don't
I've watched it
realize-
happen.
How many
And-
facial muscles are working even when you think your
Yeah.
face
I
is
would
at
say it
rest?
with grandma too. I was in the
Grandma,
room.
mom,
I would say that with grandma
Papa,
too.
yeah, it's
was obvious.
so far every guest we've had on has talked about how having the job that they have gave them faith because they
Yeah.
could see
Yeah.
the soul
If ever I had
leaving.
questions,
It's very interesting, but it's almost like the electrical charge is gone. There's
Don't we lose 28 grams in a moment of death? The second of death, we lose 28 grams. They've
I mean, it
actually
depends on how
weighed
much
people.
you have in your stomach at the time.
Well, you do.
No, you're still on the table.
Oh, sorry.
There's another
We
part
don't-
of
we
people
don't crap
dying that a
28
lot of
grams.
people.
That'd be weird if everybody crapped the exact amount. Hey, well, everyone just takes a 28 gram dump. That's
Elvis's
weird.
would have been way bigger.
Elvis.
6 times a day. So
Elvis's. So when people die, their bowels release.
But
which
grandma,
just-
I remember grandma, like they came in after she had gone and I remember the guys were like, they're look, everybody's, I'm sure the people that pick up bodies and stuff are just, they're very sensitive. They have to be, especially funeral home people. And they were like, do you guys mind if we I go, she's not there.
Oh,
Go ahead. She's not there. It's just, that's
because
not her.
I'm sure they've also dealt with some.
Yeah,
crazy
that's not
stuff.
her.
I
Yeah.
actually, to be fair, once they got her ankles and slid her down that was a bit much for me. I will
you
say
need to
you
move.
don't want to see. Yeah,
being
would-
handled like a thing.
like a
Yeah,
and
yeah.
mom
I
yeah,
get
it's not your favorite thing, but we're gonna get to that about personal versus job. But what was your next most memorable
Because
during that?
I'm just saying, there's a point where it's you can't joke about it. Like you probably walked across some horror where you're like, we got to just.
I
Stick
mean,
with
there's
you.
some, but even I think I want to say truly that the worse it is, the worse the jokes are. The worse my
Gallows
second.
humor, yeah.
So my second one that really sticks was I was still an intern, but we showed up at a house, and the guy I was riding with, I kept riding with the same guy. He's a really good dude. I think he's still there actually with that PD, but he became like a lieutenant or something. We show up, and I mean we're in the South, so it's hot. It was in the summertime.
That's
and
another part.
We get there, and I'm like, why would they put black plastic on the inside of the windows? And he's putting a Tyvek suit on, and he's like, oh, that's not plastic. He's like, those are flies. I'm like, this is all you, bro. I'm like, it's like, no, it's like I got another one in there
Car
for you.
needs to be detailed. I'm out.
I was like, I brought my gun. I'm going to count my bullets. I don't know. I was like, I'm not going in there. The AC wasn't on, and the body had been there for a couple of weeks. And,
So
I wasn't
bodies
ready for that.
in heat. We
That's a
knew
Stephen
somebody
King
that
scene.
did
It would-
this,
yeah.
but especially in heat and humidity, they liquefy somewhat.
And well, they bloat
right?
first, and then when the gas releases, that's when they start to, it's just everything is stopped, and the bugs come.
And if they're on a porous surface like wood,
yeah,
they meld with porous.
They can become parts of things that they
Yeah.
weren't before. Couches.
There's
chairs.
you read everything.
Really,
isn't
couches
Isn't
too?
it weird that we read like every once in a while we'll read something about where someone died in the or even worse. We read this one on the podcast. Remember there was a lady who just kept sitting in the chair, and they found out she hadn't moved out of her chair for like
She was still alive though.
she was alive and she'd become part of the chair.
Yes, that's what I knew. Something in my brain. That's
She's-
right.
You get sores and they heal, and you get sores and they heal, and you get sores and they heal, and it just.
You're like a transformer. You're now a recliner. You're a human and a recliner.
I don't think the noise
You're
is
a power
cool.
chair.
It's more of a screech.
Screech.
She's making noise. It's making noise. Yeah, I mean, I have some stories that I don't look back on them fondly, but I remember.
But I look back on fond.
I said I don't.
Those were
I
the
don't
days.
look back
I know
on,
who does.
but you still look back on them and you and I think this is why we cope the way we do.
They're imprinted on you. Pretty
It's
much.
imprinted because they're horrible. But
Right.
I look back and I remember who I was with. the guys I was working with. And I remember the situation, and I remember the horror of the situation, but I remember the humor in it. You know, the worst one I had at the time, because my kids were close to the same age, was the rollover accident that we worked out in the desert. And we got there and everybody had been ejected. And the parents were laying close to each other, like trying to reach each other, and they were still alive. But their little girl, I want to say I think she was 13. She's a little bit older than my kids at the time. And she was dead. She was already dead. My buddy was just working on her. And I was like, bro, because he had done like Marine Corps search and rescue stuff. I mean, he'd seen some heinous stuff.
So I want to give you clear about something. Guys, we're not saying that these first responders go in and start joking at death.
Right.
No, we were trying to save
They do
her.
everything they can.
Yes.
And the only way they can keep their sanity is to find a gallows humor way around it.
And to be clear, also, in my experience, when I was with those guys, they were not making fun of the person at all. No. They were making other jokes about other things like the dildo or whatever to get through it after they had done everything they needed to do. That's distracting yourself from the horror.
I was just about to say that if I even today, that if I focus too much on the memory of the little girl, like I start to get upset. It's like I can't talk about it much. So, but I remember my buddy working on her, and I focus on me talking to him, and I'm like, hey man, if she's gone? He's like, I know. He said, but the parents are not. And he said, so we have to continue to work on her until the helicopters get here, because we were bringing 2 helos in.
Give them hope. Continue to give them.
And
do you understand? Like these people. This is why we want to do this episode. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Josh.
You're fine.
I want what he's doing right now. Like, these guys put their ass on the line for people that are alive or trying to hurt them. On top of that, the accident happens. Then they put their ass on the line trying to save it. Then they have to think beyond, okay, these parents are still alive. We can't stop working on them because these parents may give up. They're on the ragged edge anyway. Sure. If we don't keep working on her, so they think that we're working on her, that there's still a possibility, then they won't hold on either. So then we have 3 bodies. That's another level. That's another level of hero that you're like, weird. That's crazy. Maybe you don't get it, but it's like,
just work to me.
It is, but that's extra. That's not just work. No, fucking working at the convenience store, taking money for a guy who's pumping gas is work. What that is, there's another level to it where whoever what's this guy's name?
Which one?
Just the first name, the guy that was working on the
Ruben.
Ruben was thinking beyond the situation to think of the future of these 2 people. Yeah. It's pretty, and that's why, again, people, when you get pulled over, when something is annoying you because of law enforcement or someone's telling you can't do it because of this reason or that reason, please remember that that's what these people do all the time.
And guys quit all the time because they can't do it. Yeah. I mean, I've come up on guys crying in their car after, and you just be like, bro, go home, go see your kids.
Well, I know, and then let's let him finish that story. I know that in your current job that you mentioned in passing that there was a situation where as soon as the agents walked out of that house, that situation, there was counselors standing by.
Oh yeah. I mean, I told you what that was, but like you can't even believe that's real.
Yeah.
Like,
can you say the genre of that?
Man, I'm not even sure how to describe that.
Okay, so don't.
So whatever the nightmare was, we don't want to hear it.
They knew before they went into the house to serve the warrant that it was going to be so bad on the people coming out of the house that they had counselors ready.
Yeah.
And that's not a joke. Jesus. That's not a joke.
Yeah.
By the way, people, we're not probably going to tell you what that is because I can tell Josh doesn't want to talk about it, but just be clear. Imagine your worst and then times it by 10.
You wouldn't believe me. I'm telling you would not believe me if I told you
counselors.
I couldn't get it out of my head after he told me. I never knew that.
And you've never seen it.
But right? Go, hey guys, we're going to need
that was
4
just
or 5
you telling
therapists
me.
Just to hang on the lawn.
Because they would have been finding this.
Oh God.
Crazy,
so tell me about with the girl. Sorry to interrupt.
So we find it was kind of a long scene because I left my buddy for a minute and we ended up running across the street. We were on the interstate and there was cars flying everywhere and we had to bring helicopters in and they had to land on the road. So
wow.
I remember vividly, we were driving 110, 115 miles an hour, 2 vehicles abreast the wrong way down the interstate with our lights on, pushing cars off the side and stopping traffic. And we stopped traffic for 40 miles. It was a very busy interstate.
It was a massive accident.
It was huge.
Were other people involved in it?
it was just the one, but we find out later, for some reason in the desert, every time a vehicle would go off the road, it didn't like slide in the sand, it would roll. And we found out later that the mother and father were having an argument, and she reached over and pulled the wheel because she was mad at him, and it killed her daughter. And I don't know that she survived, but it was a bad one. And so everybody was ejected. Nobody was wearing seatbelts. But I vividly remember going back to my buddy, and the helicopters were coming in, and he was like, "Hey man, you got some gum?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man." And I always carried chewing gum with me, and I gave him a piece of gum, and he's like, the dedication of this particular piece of information is that he had been giving her full CPR, because we didn't just do compressions back then. We were still giving compressions and breaths, knowing that her stomach was ruptured because he was getting stomach acid every time he would breathe for her. And I still have a hard time with that part.
Yeah.
So it was bad.
And he kept doing it so that
knowing that she was gone, knowing she was gone bad.
Again, were they aware?
Just
the parents,
somewhat.
They were injured. They were. It was. How do you describe it? Their bones were shattered in places and broken in others, and so they weren't moving much. But they were like he had reached across and grabbed her hand anyway, and they were talking about their daughter.
Yeah.
And still,
then,
still it gets worse.
I'm like, yeah, bitch, grab the wheel again, dummy.
So it got a little bit worse briefly because we found the vehicle was destroyed. It was turned over. We found a baby's car seat. And we found baby car clothes, like young baby clothes, not car clothes, baby's clothes everywhere, like all around the scene. And one of the supervisors had been doing it for 25 years, comes out and he's like, all right. He's like, it'd be like a football flying through the window, so start looking. And so we were like three or four, feet away from each other, combing the desert beside the interstate, looking for a toddler, or not a toddler, but a baby.
No baby.
And thank God, no, the baby wasn't there. But it's just, and we find out later the baby belonged to the 13-year-old. Like, it was just crazy, crazy stuff. But all that sticks in your head. So I have all these bits and pieces in my head, and I can kind of do the 50-foot view. But if I start coming in for the close in view, then I start to have trouble.
I've already seen it. So this is the part. This is the part that is disturbing to me and shows that it's not just a job. Yeah. That what you guys do is so much more than just a job. Because, and I feel the same way about all the firemen I knew, is that you could tell when they really started talking. Yeah. That they would all. There was a moment they would do like emergency brakes. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. You see the one guy get quiet. You're like, hey.
Okay. I have that even with Mom. How horrific she became because she refused to let go. It was like living in a horror movie, and it kept going on. And he was here. And I was thinking about this morning. This is an example. So like, Shay came to see us perform last Saturday. He just laughs instantly. That's our sister.
That's my sister.
Our older sister. And she was very like kind of uptight that I'm doing a show about Mom. Yeah. I don't know if I can handle this. I'm just going to do my best. What are you going to talk about? And then she saw it and she was like, oh, you don't make fun of Mom.
No.
You make fun of what people do around death and the absurdity that is.
Oh, we were idiots.
We were so dumb. I know Mom was in her head going, these idiots. Whenever they get together.
Is still you with the sprinky balls on top of your head.
Doing my hair.
That's the same with my sister's
but
suicide.
What I was going to say was, so we were in the moment and we were trying, I had elected to continue to bathe Mom in bed. For her dignity, I didn't want someone she didn't know doing it, even though she wasn't really responsive. We knew at times she was aware. Yeah. And so I had to put an adult diaper on her because once people can no longer get out of the bed, they have to.
I was going to say, I haven't been jogging since.
So I am like kind of frantic and I'm like, I didn't have babies. I've never put a diaper on an adult, especially I guess I did on Morgan, but I was just like, I don't know. And shut up. Yes, I still put diapers on her. So I said, sandwich, just stand right there and let me try this on you. And am like very upset and stressed. And I put this big giant diaper. He's got red basketball shorts on and I put it on over it and I Velcro each side. And then I realized that Sandwich is standing there right next to our mom's hospital bed in a diaper. And then we lost our shit.
I remember the picture. You said it to me and I started laughing.
I took pictures. And of course, once he realizes something's funny, he starts dancing with his big diaper butt going back and forth. And that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. It's like we so desperately needed light in any moment that we laughed a lot, but it was never at mom.
Never at mom. Yeah, never at the people.
The same with Christian. So the bit of you on the show, it's not about my sister's suicide. It's about what happened around it and the ridiculousness of it. I want what people need to understand is that, because I think some people get this thing where, and that's the first time I heard it when they were talking about cracking the guy's ribs. I remember thinking, wow, you guys just don't care anymore. And then as I got older and started to realize, no, it's like you guys have to do this.
Oh, yeah.
Or else there would just be a mental ward full of first responders. And I'm sure there's a lot of guys, cop suicide is really high.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of guys that don't handle it. So just know people
drink.
Yeah, people aren't
that's
being.
That's what I was going to say.
They're not being callous. They're not being insensitive. They're trying to save their own souls in the nightmare they have to live in.
As of 2023, more police officers died by suicide than in the line of duty.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So one of my classmates and I were at my station at the same time, and everybody's mustering, and which is where we all come in and kind of get your assignments for the day, and you hand out long arms and stuff. And so while we're in muster, we get a call for a rollover, and it's not 3 miles from our station. And so everybody's like, blah. I mean, everybody wants to be the first one there because you want to work, but it's exciting. And so everybody's running code to get there. And my buddy just happens to be assigned to one of our EMTs. And he does regular work, but he's like an EMT second. And we show up, and it is a bad rollover. And the dude was hammered. And I guess we find out later that he's in a big pickup truck, and he went off the road, and it starts rolling. He's ejected through, I think, the passenger window, which seems kind of crazy to me, not wearing a seatbelt.
Right.
The truck rolls over him and then and comes to a stop. So, he was a bag of chiclets. He was broken to pieces.
God.
But I remember clearly, sorry.
Bag of Lincoln Logs.
That's pretty specific. Yeah. So I specifically remember jumping out. I've got my journeyman with me, my trainer or whatever. And so jumping out, and I go running towards him, and I'm 25 feet from my classmate, and he is just getting ready to start doing CPR on this guy. And I hear it. From 25 feet away, I hear this guy's sternum pop.
Oh.
My classmate is kind of a gentle guy, kind of a sensitive guy. I was like, whoa, that was crazy. And I see him I'm still running towards him. He's gray, and he has stopped moving. Completely froze. And like, just because I'm sure he felt it. It went up through his arms. Which meant he was doing it right.
Right.
And I remember that his trainer, the EMT, whose name I won't say, but he was like, hey, fucking go, yo. And it starts going again. So you had to jumpstart him because it totally broke his OODA loop.
So they don't do breaths anymore.
No, they don't.
Why?
It's not that it's not effective. If you had a bottle, that would be great. But I think what they were, and this is just my thought, because I did teach CPR for a while. I was a basic first aid instructor for our classes or whatever, but I think it's because people are getting so tired. And if you don't have somebody to change out with, it's better for you to keep the oxygenated blood that's in the body still moving around than it is to stop, lean over, give them a breath or two breaths, and then go back to it. So I think they felt like people could.
More effective.
What's interesting is, like, with all the tech we have, you'd think that someone at this point had invented something. You come in, you strap it on his head, you turn it on, it does it. You think we'd invented something by then.
I think that they have things that will do CPR like that you can strap to
portable ventilator kind of thing.
But
how much room do you have in the cop car?
No, not that much. And like there's none in mine because ours aren't marked.
Right.
And so, but like even the bag valve masks, you have to be trained to use those. I guess you can actually burst people's lungs if you do them wrong.
Oh, wow.
So you can do more damage than good.
Which then you're getting sued.
So, and I think too that they may have been harming younger kids. They were giving them too hard of compressions, and they were giving them too much breath. So if it was my family, if it was my kid,
Right.
or you had
Right.
fallen down, I would be giving breaths
Yeah.
because I'm giving you oxygen that I then move through your body.
Right.
But
Oh,
it will
that's
tire
what
you out
that's
much faster. I'm doing
interesting.
it. So everybody that's taking a CPR class knows staying alive.
If you haven't lived,
That's how they train you. That's the speed.
They do?
That's the speed.
that's
It's
the beat.
2,
Staying
3,
alive.
4,
Staying alive.
5. Yeah, literally, that's how you keep the speed.
Staying alive.
That's it.
Gosh,
Ready,
that
mother,
cop has
ready,
such
He's got
great flair.
rhythm.
See, that's the problem is you would stop. You would
Yeah.
stop to do
I'd be
that
like,
part.
And the dude would just flatline.
You haven't lived until you've seen Josh get tased at one of his
Oh, that was
That was
academies.
still funny. Still play that
keep
video once in a while.
video
We need
just
to- I
so
wish we
can
could
laugh.
blur
I've
you
never
out and
heard
put that on
someone say
Instagram.
I
the
really
F word
wanted, yeah.
with more verve
Yeah.
and not move his face or body.
I really
Boom.
wanted to be able to show that to my kids, and it didn't work.
It
out
was
that way.
darts, right? The
Oh yeah, a lot of places will do clips. They'll clip them to the back of your clothes, or they'll clip them on you. Not my agency.
They shot you.
Freaking shoot you with it. And if anybody's ever been shot with an X2 taser, the probes are longer, they're more effective,
Ow.
and you can actually hear it talking to the device because it gives you it talks to the probes and gives more or less power to make it work more effectively. It doesn't mess with your heart. It's called neuromuscular incapacitation, NMI.
Dude, it's still the funniest thing, man. And knowing you,
I was like,
but
son of a.
it's way funnier when you know the person because
Sandwich.
big dude, and they hit him with this thing, and he's got two guys holding him, and
Sandwich.
motherfucker, He just goes-
and then he timbers.
yeah, and then you just
slowly goes
the
down.
body totally stiff.
And every single person, I've watched probably 1,000 of those videos because I used to teach Taser. I've shot people in the Taser classes and stuff. Every person goes at the end of the 5 seconds, ugh,
Yeah.
because you're.
Oh, it causes
every
you
person,
to tense
Every,
up.
every muscle
person-
in your body.
Well,
Oh, it's
again,
awful.
those cops in that area that we lived, when I was
We're
running a
shooting
comedy
each
club,
other.
would shoot each other and the comic for the
Yeah.
week. And you got not
An
with
arm.
darts though. It
Well, they
was
would use
just
drive
the-
stun.
Yeah, What's
Drive
it called?
stun hurts. It's called drive stun.
Yeah, drive
stun
stun.
hurts.
Yeah.
Everybody says dry stun. It's
Drive
Drive
stun.
stun, right?
Yeah.
So you did it when I first
Yeah.
first time you ever played
Yeah.
that. That's when we met.
That's
'Cause you
like a
couldn't say
localized-
no.
Not fun.
Couldn't
Yeah.
say no because I would always come up. Which again, probably they can't do this. What they were
Oh,
doing.
that's a big,
Oh, no,
a big
no,
hell
no,
no.
Can you
no, no.
Yeah, oh
imagine?
no, the lawsuits would be awesome.
And especially if something happened to one of the comics. So every week it would be all the girls on the staff going, you got to get tased. What are you going to do? So you say
Right.
no?
All
I
right, sure, go
doubt
ahead.
they got tased. The
But
girls.
I remember just.
Yeah, no,
it's
I never did. I never
not good.
did
It's
it.
localized.
They wouldn't do
Yeah.
it to me.
When they shoot you properly with the probes, it's like shoulder and butt cheek, and it locks everything.
Well, we watched it. We saw
It
you.
is freaking horrible. Absolutely.
The other thing that used to really stress me out was there was a period of time where you were periodically going into a room to get the
Oh,
shit
yeah.
kicked out of you
Yeah, that wasn't fun.
by a guy that was in a big padded
Wasn't
thing.
one guy.
It wasn't one guy.
It wasn't one guy. It was
I wish it
numerous-
was one
I
guy.
remember this
Oh.
going, wait, how many guys?
The first time it was 3. We had to fight 3, and every
in
time
a dark room.
Yeah, they would lower the lights and they would turn like blue and red lights on to kind of simulate you being outside of a police vehicle with lights going. Yeah, it sucked. That's all I want to say about that. I feel
And
like
because those
He
guys.
doesn't want to talk
because,
about
by
that
the way,
either.
here's
I've
the
done
thing.
it 3 times for 3 different academies.
So
and
here's the thing. So
I'm done.
so knowing some people go into law enforcement because they want to be a superhero. Some people go into law enforcement because they're really insecure and they need. You've met the guys like this
Oh yeah.
that are just like, I need to be a bully.
I want to
and
be the bully.
I
Yeah,
wanna
yeah.
be
I've been bullied. I want to be the bully.
exactly.
Yes,
or they were
happens.
always a bully and they've
Yeah.
decided to do that.
That happens.
The guys that volunteer for the ass kicking job for the 3 guys in the room, those are those
Those
guys.
are
Like,
bullies.
oh yeah, we'll do it.
I got you, fam.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Did you
Yeah.
ever get to be one of those guys?
So when I became a defensive tactics instructor, I started to write scenarios and I started to be the guy in what they call it a fist suit, or there's different brands that make these
Right.
suits. Ones we use were Fist brand. And so I have done that, but I always went into it. I had a guy that was a buddy of mine who was a special forces guy at that last office I worked at. He'd been SF. He was in the Marine Corps. He was all this crazy stuff. He's like a just big old meathead. But he was smart because he was SF. He's not all muscle.
SF.
Special Forces. Sorry. So it's the Marine Corps version of Special Forces.
Right.
So he was like Force Reconnaissance.
Wow.
And so they're meatheads with brains.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, if you took
Like
Albert
Reacher.
I was just saying, yeah, well, Reacher or Einstein on steroids. So
she thinks of Reacher all the time.
I know.
Right.
We were talking
What'd
about
you say?
Reacher.
I didn't hear you.
I was thinking about abs. So he would always, very, very important for him that people learn something when they would do these scenarios. And so we did all kinds of stuff, and it was great to work with a guy like that because he's like, there was kind of a culture when I first came into my first law enforcement job where it was, they would bring them into the room, and there were guys coming out with broken bones and guys with concussions and,
so this guy's beating the shit out of him.
And that was, they thought, oh, we're just going to beat the shit out of him. That's what we're going to do. And so this guy was very much the guy that, he's like, they got to learn something or it's worthless. We're not training. We're just beating people up.
Right.
So I have been in those scenarios.
It was more of a hazing than a training.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
and then we get to my station and we really get hazed. So, we got our asses beat for no reason. And the guy, the guys that went in before me, one of them was also a Marine, and the other guy was some sort of like a jujitsu, like a highly belted jujitsu guy.
Judy Chop.
So I'm third in the stack, and these two guys go in, and you can hear instructors hitting the wall. And then I go in, and I was much smaller then than I am now, and had not been doing jitsu regularly and all that other stuff. And so I get in there, and they're like, "Oh yeah, payback time," and they beat the shit out of me. And
they just got their asses kicked
twice by angry people. And at one point, like it was 3 guys, and they put me into the wall, and one guy literally was holding my head against the wall and hitting me in the kidneys. Ooh. And the instructor actually was like, "What are you?" Like I'm still fighting. I'm still trying to get off the wall to get turned around, but these guys were huge. So I, 600
when does it
pounds.
end? How do you? When you die?
I don't remember how it ends. I remember leaving.
I woke up outside.
Yeah. Propped on a wall with a cup of water. I don't know what happened.
The funny thing about him is he's still
sandwich.
I had a Gatorade and a concussion.
And he has such a sense of humor. I don't know it was Mom, obviously we got the sense of humor from.
Yeah, I don't think
it's
Dad
not
has one still.
He's like,
or he has misplaced
kind
it.
of, yes, he's misplaced it. He used to have a little more.
He stumbles into it once in a while.
But one of my favorite
sandwich
stories was like moonlighting with another agency on the weekends for fun serving warrants. Do you know the story I'm thinking of?
I don't remember which one.
When the guy pulled up to the telephone pole.
Yes. Yes, I do. That was actually, I got assigned to a U.S. Marshals task force.
Okay, I didn't know.
And
I remember you remember this one.
It was a regional task force,
right.
And we were up north. It was freaking freezing the whole time. It was snow all the time. I mean, it was awesome though. It was the best work I've ever done. I've had a great time doing it. But literally it was Vini Vidi Vici. We came, we saw, we kicked its ass. And we would serve warrant after warrant after warrant. And we would meet twice a week, and we would do nothing all day long but serve warrants. And
how many a day?
Sometimes it was 2, usually it was 5 or 6, just depending on how it went. If you were finding the people that you need to find, all felony warrants, most of them were federal, some of them were state. And so I remember showing up to that one, and it was supposed to be a bad guy. It was a gun guy. It was a guy who had guns. He was a real bad guy. Violent, I guess would be a better way to put it. So a violent offender. We show up, there's probably 10 of us, and we come with, so I'm riding with this guy I've never ridden with. We used to call him Rosie. And Rosie had been a detective for 30 years. And he's very stoic. He's kind of weird, but he's a really nice, he doesn't speak the entire time we're in the car. And I've been with him for months. So we come flying up to this thing, and he whips to a stop, and he jumps out of the car, and he goes running across the street, and you can see all the guys with long arms and
anticipation.
Rifles. Yeah, and everybody's running towards the vehicle. And I try to open my door, and thunk, he has parked me 6 inches from a telephone pole. And I can't get out. And so, of course, I have that moment that we have,
guys,
where I'm really mad at first because I've got I have like a submachine gun strapped across my armor, like I'm like, whoa!
Yeah, you're in armor too, so you can't like just climb over the console.
So I ended up climbing over the console.
You did, okay.
That's the only way I could get out. But I get
ding,
when it's over, like, bro, where were you? Where were you? And I was like, look at the car. And everybody loses it. Like the guy's in handcuffs. He's like, it's not funny. I'm like, no. Shut up.
You should laugh with us.
This is funny. So then Rosie's like, I'm really sorry, bro. I'm like, the first time he spoke the whole time was to tell me he was sorry for parking me in front of a telephone pole.
So and I couldn't get out.
I couldn't get out.
Oh my God.
But there was that moment that we get where I'm like, mother. And I'm like, wait a minute. That's really funny. Like nobody's going to believe that.
So is there ever moments where it's so bad where you're just mad? Like, you walk into something, you're just like, there is no jokes. There is no you could tell someone did something stupid or
especially
heinous
with
where
what
you're
he
just
does
like,
now.
The jokes are after. The joke, we still
Right.
tell jokes after, but there are times when you walk out of the warrant or you walk out of the scene or you walk out of the house. With the Marshals, one of the things that we dealt with a lot with kids, and kids are collateral damage.
Yeah, it's hard to even find funny.
We would hit a house and, we were joking about the 1,200-pound mattress in the living room, but that's a thing. And it's usually covered in needles or people sleeping that are unconscious still. But for some reason, like there's always booze, there's always drugs, there's always whatever, the people who are doing the stuff in the house want. But there's always kids half naked, dirty, sitting on a floor covered with dog feces. Yeah. And that's a thing with no running water.
And no one taking care of them
at all. And there's like needles all over the place. And I get that people have drug issues, but they're not taking care of those kids. And so those kids if you ever want to talk about how it perpetuates itself, that's all that kid knows. That kid doesn't know society. I mean, some of the houses we went into in that northern area, I remember following the head marshal into this trailer and it was like Deliverance. Obligatory mattress, middle of the floor, pitch black inside the house. It's daylight, pitch black inside the house.
Yeah, they always cover the windows.
They're covering the windows. So I was number 2 in the stack. We hit the house. I'm following the lead marshal as we're going towards the rear of this trailer. There's no running water. Maybe they didn't have electricity. It might have been why there was no light. The guys are coming in behind us. They're covering down on the people that are in the living room. We're pushing to the rear of the trailer, and it wasn't funny at the time, but I remember the head marshal. He's like, back up. And I'm like, what? I'm hyped. I've got my rifle with me and he's got his rifle and he's like, back up. And I'm like, what? And I hear him go, oh, like he's starting to retch.
Oh no.
And he's like, fucking back up. And so I start backing off. I'm like, what is it? I'm like, I think it's a body. Yeah. I don't know what it is. So we end up clearing the rest of the trailer. I get done, we get outside and they always smell bad. You don't know. You smell like death in there.
Yeah.
So we get in there and we're outside. I'm like, bro, what was it? He was like, he just couldn't talk. He's been doing this for 30 years. I'm like, what is it that got you going so bad that you, A, we're freaking out and B. Right. So apparently they don't have running water. This is how we found they don't have running water. Oh, no. They had taken a 5-gallon bucket and put one of those wheelchair toilets over it. But they weren't emptying it. Mm. So it was just feces and vomit and blood and ass. And it was just spilled all over the floor. And they would just go in there and sit on that frame and go more. Doing it. And so when he pushed the door open with the flies I know it's really, really gross and not funny at the time. But we made fun of him for months.
Oh, I'll bet you. It's on nonstop.
He would stand behind me and I'd be like, hey, back up. It was freaking awesome.
Josh is like the where he is now, because what he deals with now is really heinous.
Differently, though. Yeah.
But at Christmas, he sent me selfies. He decorated the office for Christmas. He had little blinky string lights and the TV was a fireplace. Yeah. He wrapped the door. Then he made a Christmas tree and the ornaments were the most wanted people. And I said, what does your
I didn't win.
Office?
I did not win. I'm really upset about that still. Did not win.
That's some bull crap.
Put a lot of work into it.
What do you think about how
I can say that the best way to describe this without going too much in depth is that I work in crimes against children. That would be
which was not your intent
at all, and it's still not my intent.
But it has become so prevalent.
It is, and so
I was just
crazy.
Reading something,
especially since COVID.
Reading something. They're saying that it is. There was a hearing done about it this last week, I think, and they were talking about how it seems like no matter how much money they throw towards it, no matter how much law enforcement they put at it, it still gets
It's an epidemic.
bigger.
It is, and it's too much of it.
And these guys are connected.
Epidemic.
Like
Someone who works in it.
crazy fuckers
Social
are
media
connected.
has algorithms that connects them.
Yes.
That was in the Wall Street Journal recently.
This is what I think I read, yeah.
Yeah, so I think I sent it to you too. The Wall Street Journal had a thing about it, and I read another article, and I can't remember who it was. And not traditionally conservative media, which is who would normally put something like that out. Not that I trust any media. Sorry.
Right.
Sorry, is that okay to say?
Mm-hmm.
No, go with your feelings. Don't trust any facts.
Whiskey Tango Foxtrot over. I mean, I just see one slant is so far one way, one slant is so far the other way, and it's hard to find anywhere in the middle. And so you hear so much noise on both sides, you start to get distracted.
I asked you, how do they find each other? Because you sent me an article.
I sent the article
about this incident
that was the bus driver that we worked up north. That I think, right?
No, it was the mall bathroom.
Oh, that was a real bad one. The bus driver was a bad one because he was like a true sociopath. Like the lights were on, but nobody was home. And when we talked to the guy serving the warrant down south, we were holding him, and we talked to the guy doing the warrant. He was like, "I really thought we were going to find a kid in a cage." Like he really thought they were going to find children in a cage.
And you said though, social media.
So
they have little emojis.
The algorithms, there's 1,000 ways that they identify each other, but the algorithms that they're using can I say what,
sure.
It's any, I would say Telegram, I would say Facebook, I would say Instagram, I would say specifically in the Wall Street Journal article, they mentioned Instagram and I think Facebook.
All places that agencies can subpoena all of the information.
But also places where kids that are younger that shouldn't be on there that supposedly are supposed to be 18 still gain access. And what happens is they look for kids and they go on there and they hunt kids. What was the one that I wouldn't let my kid look at? Roblox. Roblox has a chat feature. We have dealt with cases where predators come on and find children on Roblox and bring them off the platform, and those children are now sending them photographs, videos, and stuff like that. So it's a lot of satanic stuff going on.
A toy chat feature.
You can't turn it off. And that's a problem. That's why I never let my kid use it.
People, it's like for him to say it's an epidemic, and I said, "Why since COVID?" And you said it very graphically.
Yeah. Well, I don't remember how I said it, but they sat in their houses and they went down rabbit holes that maybe they wouldn't have gone, or maybe it would have taken them years to go down. But they also took young children who are now stuck at home doing computer work for school and said, "Hey, shut up! I have to work. Here's a phone, or here's an iPad. Shut up! I have to work," and go over there. And those kids had free reign, and those kids found things on the internet they shouldn't have found, and they became victims themselves.
I could not do this job.
No, and I would use now.
I was going to ask you though, with all the coping skills with this becoming, you have to become somewhat desensitized to be on crime scenes. What did it prepare you for your, like someone in your life, your personal life, like mom? Did it make that easier, or?
I think it made it easier because I know how to turn that switch off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
There are times, again, like if I get out of that 50-foot view and I come in and get too close to it and I start thinking about mom too much and the stuff that we dealt with.
Right. I do that too.
Just like,
bye-bye.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's a switch turning off. I think it's a spam folder.
But it's a decision.
You guys
it's a decision.
Of course, but it's a spam folder. You guys, anybody in law enforcement, first responders, EMTs, you roll up on the worst possible shit that we could possibly imagine. And then you have to, like the rest of us are just shaking in the corner going, I can't believe I can't even look at it. And then you guys have to walk into it and fix it, clean it up, get everybody safe. And so I think what happens is and I've watched you just this today, I've watched you shut off the spam folder 3 times. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I started to get wet eyed a little bit.
Right. But so it's not an off switch.
And I don't talk about it much.
And the problem is that folder's undeletable. And that's what I worry about. What's the B side of that? And I, because we read about cop suicides and stuff. What's the way to deal with, because that is a PTSD.
I'll tell you,
it's a hidden PTSD.
The 13-year-old little girl was June of 2008.
Wow.
Like it's that clear in my head.
Wow.
Vivid.
Okay.
Didn't you have to?
She was wearing a red shirt and shorts.
Wow.
The truck was dark red. Like it's very specific. It's very much still there. Very much still there.
That's how I feel like with Mom. I do it. Like
just know you just call me. If it gets
the
crazy,
intricacies of it starts to come on usually at night when I'm trying to sleep.
Yep.
And
because your mind's trying to deal through all the stuff.
Yeah,
you guys are both really smart. I'm glad I'm stupid enough because I can turn some. I can just. I mean,
people.
And we used to run nightclubs, so we were always drinkers. But you know what I mean? Like we were good at it. You know, we weren't doing stupid stuff necessarily.
Can confirm
for the most part.
After Mom,
can confirm.
That's how I dealt with Mom when I drank too much.
And
so that's why now I really don't drink hardly all. I mean,
except
every
when
once
you
in a while,
visit.
Yeah, when I visit, but very rarely do I drink because of that, because it can become a problem very quickly. And you know, I thank the Lord that I was able to say, nope, I'm not going to do it. And I just stopped, but not everybody can do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's why I think the guys leave or the guys take themselves
a lot
out.
of that, or they kill themselves. Yeah. And I think too, the way that police are looked at now, the way that the media has portrayed police, some of it's been correct, some of it's been wrong.
Well, here's the thing: you can't generalize police because
you can't generalize anybody.
But that's what happens is
it's like me saying all white people are bad or all purple people are bad.
Yeah, but we get Chauvin. We get 3 or 4 guys that are just fucking. You're like, what the fuck?
The guy in South Carolina that put the taser down.
But even cops are like, whoa.
Yeah.
And then the media goes, well, the media now has. The media goes, oh, we have all this now. Let's run this forever. So then, and say what you will, we all get this fight that, oh, are all cops like this? Because there was a time
because that's all they report,
right? I have noticed recently, and I always like the resentful when I watched the cop recently, like stopped and saved the dude in his car. Like,
or
like,
the kid.
Or the kid,
lake,
And I'm like, I like to see, we need to keep that too, because yes, there are bad cops, there are bad comedians, there are bad pretty girls.
How many millions of contacts do police have with citizens every single day that are either normal or positive or nobody dies?
Right.
Right.
You know, and they don't do anything wrong.
About.
Yeah.
You know,
cop in South Central doing a break dance off with some kid.
Didn't you have to fingerprint a body in the morgue?
I
just am like,
I told you that story. Oh,
yeah, I think you got him.
I said one night on stage. I actually said something.
Nowhere.
I forget how I said it, but I was on stage at a theater in Charlotte, and I was standing backstage with my phone about to go on, and he sent me another news story, and I went out and told these people. Do you remember?
Yeah.
I said child porn news articles are my brother and my love language.
Yeah.
It's how we. But so I hear these stories.
I forgot because we actually did it twice until we destroyed the device. But we had a fingerprinting device in my agency, and I'm kind of the tech guy, and so I maintain the technical equipment and whatever, and keep it charged and make sure it works and make sure that everybody else knows how it works. Right. Which means I send stuff out, they don't pay attention to it, and then I show up on a scene and I have to teach them how to use it. So that's usually what happens. So my buddy up north is constantly getting into the just weird stuff. He's just that guy. He is a crap magnet. He's just that guy. So he calls me and he's like, hey, you think we can use that device on a body? And so, of course, my first thought is, well, is it juicy? Because if it's not, probably no. Or if it's too juicy, you got to get it in the prime juicy level. It can't be too far either way.
Right before.
So he's like, I'm like, probably. So he's like, well, hey, bring it down here. And we'll go to this morgue. And they were asking for help. I'm like, how did you? He's like, I don't know. Just I got a call. Somebody's like, hey, I heard you had these things.
He's that guy.
So anyway, so I show up down there. And I hand him the device, and I'm setting up my phone because my phone links it, and that's what sends the prints off. So he's got the device. He's very excited because he's going to go downstairs and show these people how he has saved the day. Well, we get downstairs and we realize the body's not all there. Like, it's a body, but they are like fully into the autopsy process. They didn't wait for us to show up to print the body. They went about their business. And so the body
didn't cut up the fingers.
The body is a bowl. It is
empty.
I mean, if you've ever seen an autopsy, it's legs and arms hanging off the table and the inside is just empty. They've taken the chest plate off. They've taken everything out of the inside. It's all in bowls laying around. And the head is at a 90-degree angle off this wooden block. And so we're both standing at the door and we have both frozen because none of us have that. I've worked bodies, but
we've never seen that in the movie. They don't even show that in movies.
It's very different. So
Oh,
I keep feeling this thump against my arm, and it's my buddy trying to hand me the device. And he's gray. He's already gray in the face. And I'm like, nope, I got the phone. And I just kept feeling like
I'm tech guy.
Yeah. Like the lights are on, but
I'm here to help you.
And he keeps bumping me with it. And they're like, yeah, y'all come on in, and they're eating sandwiches and whatever it is that they do, coroner people. So
that's a whole other level.
So he and I are like I'm in this dream state, and I know he is too. We're like plotting across
it
this.
Takes an hour and a half to get to the
it's
body.
like a football field, and we're so and it's off in the distance, but it's red, and you're trying not to look at the red. And so we and then all of a sudden, boom, you're there. You're like, oh shit, we're here. And so my buddy, I'm going to use his name. He keeps trying to give the device to the coroner. And the coroner's like, I don't know how to use that. And he's like, just grab you a hand and go to work. And
grab you a hand.
To my buddy's credit, he grabs a hand of this cold dead bowl and starts to roll the prints. And so I'm watching him come up on the phone. The
right amount of juicy.
Perfect amount of juicy.
Okay.
And then he puts one hand down, and he realizes that the other hand is across the bowl. and the coroner won't move because it's a pretty small space. And so he has to reach across the bowl, which does not smell fabulous, I'd like to point out, and get the other hand and roll it. And so, to his credit,
that look on my face on camera is going to be horrible. He
sucks it up and does the thing.
Oh my!
So then it's like, now you got to get a picture. That's the other part of it. So then I have to lean across the body to get the picture with the camera. And so we get through it together. But I was like, man, that is one of the most surreal things that I've ever done. It's pretty awesome.
No.
But we were upstairs, like both of us. He's got the device still.
So you're a vegan now, is what you're saying?
No. I do cook it a little further, though. I don't want it red anymore.
Well done all the time. That's all I want.
It was definitely different.
I don't know if you remember this, but to close today, last episode that we did was after death communication, like that thing that happened to me with mom and that song, mother and child reunion.
Yeah.
Do you remember, I just want you to tell this if you remember, what the night that mom finally passed away, you had gone home and I called you or texted you. And it was that night that your son did something. Do you remember?
Oh, what did he do? Because she loved him. And
my mom had written a poem when we were small that she would write in calligraphy for people when they had babies. And it's a beautiful poem. We put it on the thing for her funeral. It's called Reward. And it's this whole long list called Reward. Right? And so she had given it to them when they had their child. And it was like, I prayed that, God would make me stronger. I prayed that he would enrich me. I prayed that he would and it goes on. And then my prayer bore fruit. I didn't realize I had asked for a child because my mom loved being a mother and she called it Reward and she had given this to him. And then
it was on our chest of drawers.
She passed away in the middle of the night, close to 2 a.m. It was 1 something. And how
old was he then? He was not
little 4
or 5.
That was
2017, so that would have been
7 years ago.
But he was 2017, so he would have been 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
He was still young.
Yeah.
And he was sleepwalking sometimes then.
He still does. But yes. But he went and got that thing and brought it to me in the bed.
In his sleep.
Creeped me out.
So he didn't know that she had passed away. Yeah. And in the middle of that night, when she left, his son went and got this poem that she had written in calligraphy about having children and was sleepwalking and
brought it to the bed. Yeah.
And was crying.
It was something like that. Crying.
This is across the country.
Or really upset.
Yes, this was. They were on the other side.
She died in California. This is across the country.
Yes,
wow.
This was thousands and thousands of miles away.
It's so funny when people we've talked about this in a couple of episodes, but if you have any doubt that we're more than meat, you aren't paying attention.
Yeah. There's so many things that we can't comprehend.
Right. But even how we invent things out of nothing, art, whether, that that this little boy across the country, the exact same time his grandmother's dying, makes him take a poem written about you two to you in your bedroom is
crying.
Really, what is the, you give me the math on that. That's a coincidence.
I'll tell you, to tie in my work with that is I don't believe in coincidences anymore.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, interesting. So your job has made you more aware of humanity and not hate it.
Yeah. And I think more of a realist, like a lot of the external foolishness and stuff. I'm not as impressed with that anymore. I'm not as impressed with can't think of the word for it. The show, the draperies. I don't need to see the lights and the masks and the crazy stuff. I try to look past that, and sometimes what you find behind it is gross, and sometimes it's just somebody that's hurt. You know.
I don't know how you do the job you're doing now.
No,
I will say that.
We don't do it.
Oh, and on that note,
I guess
your
the compressor
came
just
on.
That's
Guys,
actually a pressure thing. It leaks, so that's not magic.
So it doesn't blow up. That's important.
I think it's interesting because your job, I guess, a really dumb person wouldn't get anything from it. It seems, or even the dumb people, does it make them more philosophical about life, or does it make just people bitter?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I
you
think
seem more philosophical.
having
about life.
faith is what has really helped me through it, because I know there's something beyond it, and
it strengthened your faith.
It did, and for the guys that are behind it, I mean, because you can't have darkness without light, you know. And somebody said something to me once about Jesus being a good guy. Oh, he was just a good guy. He wasn't the Son of God. And then I remember really clearly somebody told me that actually he either is who he says he was, or he's the most evil person that ever walked the face of the planet, because he's led billions of people astray who will now go to hell, or will now go somewhere that they didn't know, or lived a weird life because he wasn't actually who he said he was. So for me, I'm like, wow, I mean, that's proof to me that he is who he said he was. So,
yeah, because that's a 2,000-year con. That's
yeah.
I don't think
that is the long con. So
Can I ask a really quick question? Because how I would love to close this, not with the body
Not
part
the story.
thing. I don't know if you can tell this, but we told an abbreviated version of it on our other podcast that led to people making t-shirts and sending them to us. Tactical Chicken. Can you tell Tactical
without
Chicken
giving us any
for
kind of
our
specifics?
crossover viewers and listeners that love that story?
You
read my
almost
mind.
need to see it, though.
I almost asked to do this, but you could tell. I mean, you got to, because we got laughs out of it, and we didn't even experience it. So,
but I also sent Rachel the pictures, which helps.
Yeah. So can you tell that without?
Just tell the story.
I see if I can tell it without using names. So I was assigned to a state drug unit,
right,
up north. With a bunch of really crazy, really funny, like really good dudes. And so we show up for this huge drug warrant. It's like we're hitting more than one house. And we've all been like, was it like 3 a.m? We had to be there, and we were going to hit it early it was like just crazy. And so everybody's exhausted, and we show up.
And you have to drive a long way. Someone had to drive a long way.
Everywhere in that place that we lived, it was a long way.
Top
Everywhere
speed,
was an hour and a half.
Far away.
We were all driving 100 miles an hour to get there, running code. And so we all kind of show up at the same time, and the state troopers were there. Their SWAT team was there. They were going to hit the house, and we were going to go in and get all the dope and stuff. And I say dope. Dope means everything to me.
Right,
so
right.
yeah. Anyway,
Whatever the contraband,
whatever it happened to be at the time was
yeah.
the dope. So we show up, and I'm standing next to my car, and the other guys are pulling up, and one of the guys is like, "Did you guys see that chicken?" And we're like, "Chicken?" And sure enough, there's this black chicken like 15 feet in front of my cars in the headlights. And we're like, dude, and this chicken is not okay. This chicken, and
this chicken is not okay.
He has got his mohawk is pasted to the side of his head, and it's like walking in circles, like it's drunk. It was
like a chicken on a bender.
It was really strange. And so,
a Charlie Sheen chicken.
So the supervisor walks over. He's like, "What are y'all doing?" And we're like, "Well, just look at this freaking chicken." and he's like, "That's my chicken." And everybody
how far are you
stops.
from this guy's house?
Oh, like 90 miles. So everybody stops. Like it gets dead silent. We're all like laughing and talking and pointing at the chicken. And we all stop and we look at the supervisor. Like, what do you mean it's your chicken? He's like, that's my freaking chicken. And so all we can figure,
he's just now realizing it though. Like, holy shit, that's my chicken.
Well, we all just pulled up and we happened to see a chicken, and he's like, "What are y'all doing?" And we're looking at this weird chicken.
But he's going, "What? Wait, that's my chicken."
Yeah, he's like, "That's my chicken." And so we're like, "What do you mean?" So
I've never heard anyone ever say.
He says, "Oh shit." I forgot he likes to get in the engine where it's warm because it's wintertime in this up northern area. He says, "Oh, that poor bastard." He's like, "I was doing 120 miles an hour to get here. And this thing was behind the grill up against the engine trying to stay warm." So we all have this mental picture of this chicken with his wings spread going,
holy, and there's a fan going right, like, what the fuck?
Like just pinned to the motor. So we don't know how that happened, but but regardless, like, so the first part is us realizing he's just driven 90 miles at 120 miles an hour with a chicken in his motor, freaking the hell out.
And it didn't die.
Correct. And the chicken is now 90 miles from home, punch drunk, working its way around this parking lot. So we fast forward about 12 hours. We're like, okay, well, sorry, dude, your chicken's done. So we go in, we do the briefing, we go hit the house, we come back like 12 hours later. It's a really long warrant. And here comes the boss with a box. The chicken was still there. Yes.
He had to catch the chicken.
He reclaimed his chicken and put it in the back of the car.
It was his chicken.
So
that was his it's my fucking chicken. I'm taking this chicken.
So it became the tactical chicken. and there were posters everywhere of tactical chickens and pictures, because there were pictures taken, and there were pictures all over the office for a really long time. It was pretty awesome.
Tactical chicken. I'm so glad we finally got
those weird. That's one of those weird.
It was surreal,
like
for sure.
Like an urban, like wildlife story where, like, how the hell did the chicken make it in the motor?
What did the chicken tell his chicken buddies?
Yeah. The story.
You're not going to believe
guys, this. Listen. What do you mean? Where have I been? Let me tell you.
You're not going to believe this.
Guys, this has been so much fun. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. This has been Knock 'em Dead with my co-host Christopher Titus and my brother
Sandwich.
Yeah. Do me a favor, people. Next time you get pulled over, just realize what that guy's dealing with. And again, don't get mad unless you're willing to do the job they do. Thanks.
Later.